Hey guys, it's the Geek here, and welcome back to Ace Attorney, where we are about to go into court and try and save our client, who actually was the thief, even though we proved he wasn't a thief, but now we have to prove he was a murderer. He's not a murderer by now proving that he's a thief, but maybe double jeopardy is not a thing here. We just have to hope, I suppose. But let's go into it. Hey, Nick. What is it this time? You won't believe how many people are here for the trial. Well, it is a murder case. What are you talking about? They're here for the trial next door. Next door? Why don't you know this, Nick? We're having Detective Atmy's trial today. Detective Atmy. They say they're going to try him as mask to mask. Alrighty? That was fast. Boy, I'd love to see Mask to Mask's trial. I know. By the way, where's Pearls? Oh, she went back home. She said she can't neglect her training anymore. I know you don't like me. Pearls has really gotten into her training lately, huh? Yeah, ever since that incident last year. Please, don't ignore me. I wasn't sure if Phoenix was talking under his breath or not, but okay, it was wrong. Oh, Mr. Light, good morning. No one likes me. No one would notice me even if I killed someone. Come on, don't be silly. Wait a second. You don't mean you're the murderer? No, I'm just a poor thief. No, wait, that's not right. A thief can't really be poor. Unless you're Robin Hood. Now, let's see. According to Mr. Delight, from his second crime on, he was following a bunch of set plans. Plans that someone had been sending him to help him commit the heist. Do you really think there's a connection between the thief and the murder, Nick? It's possible, but today's trial is a race against the clock. Huh? How come? Let's just take our time like always. I'm afraid that's not an option. Why? Because Atmy's trial is going on? And we only want him convicted of the one crime? I kind of am fine with Atmy going to jail for the time. Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Ron Delight. The defense is ready, Your Honor. You're ready? Preparation is the last refuge of the weak. What? Okay, settle down everyone. Let's begin with your opening statement, Mr. Godot. He's got the judge in the palm of his hand, yet again. Ron Delight is simply too young to be sent to war. That's all. What? I'm afraid I have no idea what that means, Mr. Godot. Ha. Then you need to get out more, Your Honor. Life is war, but that is exactly why you must be more precise in your wording. That's all my statement means. You understand now, right? No, we'll just ignore you. Yes, well then, let me briefly summarize the details of this case. Wow, the judge is taking charge like he knows what's going on for a change. The victim is Kane Bullard, CEO of KB Security. His body was found in a safe at approximately 9 a.m. on the morning of the 13th. However, the time of death was estimated as 1 a.m. of the previous day. And that's when our little lost kitten dropped the ball. That little lost kitten is, of course, the defendant. Very well then, Mr. Godot. Please call your first witness. Does he not have any witnesses? I never drink more than 17 cups of coffee during any given trial. I highly doubt that. But the first one is always the best. Yeah, that's how dopamine rushes work. Mr. Godot, you're a witness? Okay then, let's hear what the defendant, Mr. Rondelite, has to say for himself. The defendant? Well, Mr. Wright, does the defense have any objections? Maybe a bit of a disadvantage having the defendant testify, but... Remember when Mia was defending me? She allowed me to testify so she could do the cross-examination. She put a lot of trust in me back then. We have no objections, Your Honor. The defense will allow Mr. Delight to testify. I wouldn't. Ha. You've got guts, Trite. Alright then, Mr. Rondelite, please take the stand. So I'm supposed to prove that Rondelite's a liar, I suppose. You did it, didn't you? Yes. What? No. That's not true. For a moment there, I thought we set the record for the shortest trial ever. Well, Mr. Light already looks plenty guilty with that face he's making. And once he opens his big mouth, he'll probably put the last nail in his own coffin. Ha, very well. Now then, can you tell me something? If you didn't kill Bullard, why did you go to KB Security? Well, it's kind of hard to say. Boy, I wish I could go home. Now then, let's hear some testimony about what happened. Right. That evening, around 1 a.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. I had been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was. 1 a.m., the exact time the murder took place. The weak gets washed away by the tides of fate. The strong drink it up. Can we move on? Ha, it's better today too, just like my destiny. You never know that from the way he's chunking it down. Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, if you please. Yes, let's do this, my friend. Okay, I'm trying to save. Save before I ruin all my lives and have to go through all of that again. 1 a.m., huh? You're absolutely sure about that? Yes, that's what my watch said when I was entering the CEO's office. No. Actually, I'm not really sure. My watch was slow, and my internal clock was also a bit. 1 a.m.? That's the exact time the victim's Mr. Bullet was murdered, correct? It's too late for a coffee date, that's for sure. The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. I know we're going to have to present the key card. It ordered you there? That was the first time I'd gotten a blackmail letter that ordered me to go somewhere. Does that mean you've gotten other blackmail letters then? Oh, of course. They say things like, steal this, or take that. Haha, why don't you save those for later, Mr. Delight? Please don't say any more. Now, what should I do? Leave it. I can't press Ron too hard, it could ruin the case. I'll just take this one slowly. Wow, Nick. Kinda look like a politician planning out your next move. I've been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was. You used to be a security chief for KB Security, right? Yes, that's right. A security chief, you. And yet, a year ago, you were fired without notice. Revenge for an old grudge? A perfect motive for murder, wouldn't you say? This isn't good. Maybe I should change the subject. Why was he fired? Mr. Delight, please tell us why you were fired from your job. Well, the world is filled with those who have said. I wish I had never asked that. Okay, then I take that back. Defendant, please answer the question. I needed money. You needed money? Well, you see, Desi loves to spend it. It's kind of her hobby. Not exactly the best hobby in the world, huh, Nick? My salary wasn't nearly enough, so I stole data from the company. Oh. Come again? KB Security has a lot of security info in all sorts of companies. Since I was a security team chief, you stole some data and sold it. Mr. Bullard found out, and I was fired immediately. What? I wish I never asked that. I'm glad we asked that. I was somehow able to keep it secret and made it seem like I had quit on my own. What is it, Nick? You don't look so good. Someone who brings harm to their company is fired as punishment. You do well to remember that. I think that's important because wouldn't Bullard have a file on Ron proving that he is mask to mask? Maybe. He sure told you. So you admit you stole data from your company, is that correct? Yes, I'm sorry. This is a very important fact. Please add it to your testimony. Oh man, this whole thing just took a big turn for the worst, crashed and blew up. It's going to take the jaws of life to rip this case from the clutches of disaster. He fired me for selling company secrets. But Desi doesn't know about that. Why would you do something like that? Well, for Desi's hobby. What else? Wasting money, huh? It's not a waste. So Miss Delight doesn't know that her husband was fired, does she? So it would seem. I'm not sure what to think about couples who keep secrets like that from each other. I can't believe it. This case has gotten even Maya to think seriously about couples. Please try and stay focused, Mr. Wright. There wasn't much to his testimony, was there? Sounds like he's avoiding something. At least that's what it sounds like to me. Uh-oh, I got a bad feeling about this. We better be careful. But if we don't find a way to make him spill the beans, we'll never get closer to the truth. Yeah. Wait, we want him to spill the beans? The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. I've been working for Charity 8 years ago, so I knew where his office was. He fired me for selling company secrets. The buzzer went off once. So found in Ron's wallet, used the night of the crime at 1 a.m. So are we supposed to get him to spill? Is that what I'm hearing? Evening around 1 a.m. Okay, went to see. You did. Blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. It ordered you there? Yeah. So what did the blackmail letter in question say? It said to bring $50,000. Money, eh? The perfect motive for committing murder. Oh, but wait. Never intended to pay that money anyway. Oh, is that right? After all, you had nothing to hold over my head. I had nothing to be afraid of. An important point indeed. Witness, let's have that added to your testimony. A muddy mutt skipper in outer space has a better chance of surviving than I do. Just what were you being blackmailed about anyway? Blackmail letter said if you don't want your identity revealed, correct? I'm sure I was referring to the whole mask-to-mask thing. Tisk. I'm afraid that reason isn't going to hold up anymore. What do you mean? The victim had no proof the defendant was mask-to-mask, but you were the one who stole company secrets only 1 year earlier. But that was all over with once I was fired. But it is true that the fact I stole secrets was kept under wraps. Even so, there was no reason for me to pay up now, a year later. Is that really true? What is it, Nick? The fact that Ron was stealing company data. Wonder if he would have had a problem if that ever came public knowledge. He would, because Desi doesn't like the criminals. Mr. Delight, I believe you would have been in considerable trouble if your identity as a company data thief was made public. Mr. Wright, what are you trying to do by bullying your own client? Huh. Men are like colonies of bacteria. The more heat you apply, the faster they grow. Except bacteria has an optimal growing heat, and they can die at certain temperatures. So that doesn't work. It's more like a bell curve. That's exactly right. Well then, feel free to keep up the heat, my little lawyer amigo. Little lawyer amigo? Yes, now come on, provide some evidence to back up your assertion. What? Desi? Why would Mr. Light want to keep his data secret, stealing from going public? Because he wouldn't want Desi to find out. Mr. Light, what you said just now doesn't match what you told me yesterday. Huh? What doesn't? I think you must have been scared, very scared, having a certain person find out your secret. A certain person? Miss Desiree Delight, the defendant's wife. But listen to me, my Desi, she's... Looks like if I just sit back and relax, the fun will end before it truly begins. Yes, we know. It was all your wife's fault. What do you mean? Mr. Delight stole company data to pay for his wife's spending habit, for which he was fired. Unable to face his own wife, someone used his dirty little secret to blackmail him. And that is how this murder came about. Oh, No, everything is falling neatly into place for him. Well, that's just what we want him to think. But don't talk about my Desi like that, or you'll be sorry. What? Well, it seems that we've learned a great deal of things here so far. What do you think, Nick? I didn't think it was possible to get so thoroughly whipped in just 20 minutes. Clearly, there was a sufficient motive for murder. He stole data for his wife, and he killed to protect his secret. A family man who cared just a little too much. The motive is clear. Let's move on. What happened at the crime scene at 1 in the morning, Mr. Delight? Come now, tell us. We're all ears. I think I ruined that. Actually, no, let me not save there. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. Suddenly, I was hit on the forehead. After that, I remember being dazed. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. When I came to, Mr. Bullet was lying there, dead. I see. Suddenly hit on the forehead, huh? I believe the detective from yesterday provided similar testimony. He said that mass struck him on the head from behind. Of course, since Atme turned out to be the culprit himself, that was all a lie. Ha. No one's going to believe a pathetic lie like that. But what are you saying? I really was attacked. We'll find out if what you say is true or not during the cross-examination. Got that, Mr. Trite? Don't go easy just because he's your client. If I see any sign that you are, I'll treat you to another cup of my special blend. You don't need to worry about that, Mr. Godot. I have faith in Ron. I know he didn't do it. Okay, so I'm just going to push him and push him and push him until he gives it up. That's kind of what happened in the case of with Mia. Okay, so I don't think it would have let me this far if I was on the wrong path. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow. Who was it? If there was 1,000 of me, I would tell you. His dodging of all of her questions. How was the victim Mr. Bullard at that time? What do you mean by how was he? Was he already dead? Was he still alive? Maybe he was the one who hit you in the first place. That's a good question. What do you think, Mr. Wright? Forget it. I was hit on the forehead. Your forehead? Yes, I was hit on the forehead as soon as I entered the room. It was an amazing, fast, and powerful attack. Do you remember anything about who hit you? Well, like I said, it was fast and powerful hit, so I think I was a little dazed for a while. I don't think Mr. Light even grasped what you were asking. Yeah, I'd like to show him a fast and powerful attack myself. Maybe that would knock some sense back into him. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed wearing what? That? Could you please clarify what you're referring to? Why, my Master Mask costume, of course. Wait just a moment. Master Mask? Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? Just to be on the safe side, I dressed as Master Mask. And then I descended upon the office of the CEO of KB Security. What? Nick, did you know about this? Never told me this. I don't recall him ever mentioning it to me either. Even I didn't know that. Seems our little friend really loves to keep secrets. I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. Wait, that's not right. You know how sometimes things just slip your mind? Ha, my 6th cup of coffee is staring up at me coldly. At any rate, we can't ignore this new piece of information. Witness, please correct your testimony. I would have been killed if I wasn't wearing my Master Mask costume. Let me press a bit more on this, because I can. Why were you dressed up as Master Mask? Why? Because I'm Master Mask, of course. What are you talking about? Master Mask's trial is being held next door. Yes, I guess so. Anyway, at that time, I thought I was being blackmailed over the Master Mask issue. So I thought I should go as him, just to be safe. Oh boy. Let me tell you, it's a real pain to move around with that cape. That's why it took a lot longer than I had expected. Took a lot longer? What is he talking about? Press enter. What do you mean by took a lot longer? Oh, opening the safe, of course. My cape got stuck on the safe door, you see. This all happened when I was hiding Mr. Bullard's body. But why was that? Back up a second. Yes? You were the one that hid the body in the safe? Well, yeah. Inconceivable. Why? Just why? What reason could you have? What were you thinking? He wasn't. Question. When does someone toss their dirty shorts in the washing machine? What? The answer is simple. When they take them off. As usual, I have no idea what you're saying. Do you mean that Mr. Light hid the body because he's the murderer? Ha. So you're not as stupid as you look. This metaphor this time is really obscure. Mr. Wright, you don't mean that you knew about this whole safe business, do you? Well, yes. Why am I the only one not in the loop here? Witness, make sure you add this to the testimony. Yes, sir. Uh-oh, looks like a storm front is moving over the fair weather judge. I panicked and hit the body. He was lying there dead. When you came to? Yes, I was passed out in the corner of the room. Do you know when your assailant made their escape and to where? I'm afraid I don't really remember. Huh? Once they hit me, I lost track of what was going on. I think that's when they made their escape. Ha, that's certainly a convenient story for you, isn't it? It certainly is, isn't it, Mr. Wright? It almost sounds practiced. I don't know why you're telling me. I panicked and hit the body. It took about 10 minutes. Why did you hide the body in the safe anyway? Well, because it wouldn't fit in a drawer. That's not exactly what I meant. When I saw that corpse, I kinda lost it. I thought, if they find his corpse, they'll think I did it. Ha, I think you had a simpler reason than that. Because you killed him. That's why you spent 10 minutes hiding the body. That certainly makes more sense. Hold on. 10 minutes. What is it, Nick? Just had a thought. My thing with the 10 minutes is that the buzzer was pushed, which means Butts, had he been in the office, he would have seen Ron with the dead body. That's where I'm thinking this is going. But let's see where Phoenix is going. Under those circumstances, would you normally try to hide the body and spend 10 whole minutes to do it? Under those circumstances? What circumstances? Oh. Hey Nick, if you think his behavior is so strange, why don't you present some evidence that would show just that circumstances? Heard from Mr. Light yesterday. He's hiding something. He's gonna make things complicated. Hit on the head. I had been killed if I wasn't wearing my mask-to-mask costume. Oops. When it came to Mr. Bullet was lying there dead, I panicked, hid the body in the safe. It took about 10 minutes. I did not mean to do that. Yeah. I need to present the buzzer, I think. Being a bit dazed. Actually, let me save where I am now. I'm pretty far into this testimony. When I came to, he was lying dead. Panic and hid the body in the safe. It took about 10 minutes. There we go. Connected. There are no fingerprints on it. If it wasn't in his costume, then yeah, that makes sense. Your Honor, could you please take a look at this record? And what might this be? The record for the emergency buzzer that connects to the CEO's office to security. If the button in the office is pressed, the security team is supposed to come running. And according to this record, the buzzer was pressed once, at 1:02 a.m. What? Mr. Rondelite truly was the murderer. He would have ran as soon as that buzzer sounded. After all, a security guard would have been heading his way. Ha! Let's remember who we're dealing with here. Probably had no idea where there were security personnel in the building. He was the security chief, my dude. Up until 1 year ago, my client was working as the chief of security. There's no way he wouldn't have known about them. But, as it turns out, the guard never came. That was nothing more than a coincidence. The fact that the guard was a pathetic loser, who had just gotten punched in the face by his ex's new boyfriend, and wasn't anywhere in the vicinity, was not something Mr. Light could have known. Ha. Again, remember who we're dealing with here. It's a sure bet that Mr. Light didn't even notice the buzzer go off. This buzzer is extremely loud. There is no way he could have ignored something like that. If he had been conscious, that is. Conscious? What do you mean by that? Ugh. Proved he was knocked out. Fine. Let's hear your theory. Recall the defendant's testimony. The moment he entered the victim's office, someone attacked him. Mr. Light said he felt dazed. I'm willing to wager that he was knocked unconscious for at least a few minutes. Unconscious? So he fainted? That's why Mr. Light didn't know that the buzzer had sounded. And that's why he thought he had time to hide the body. So what are you trying to say? Mr. Light was knocked out and the buzzer went off soon afterwards. Now, unless my client was able to hit the buzzer while he was unconscious, it can only mean there was another person in that room. I'm sorry if you guys can hear the dog outside. It just got really loud all of a sudden. That's right. Whoever it was, they knocked Rhonda Light and then pressed the buzzer. Order in the court. Mr. Wright, this is preposterous. What's this kid? Rhonda Light is the one who killed Kane Bullard. Then who pressed the buzzer? It was the victim, of course. He pressed the buzzer when the defendant attacked him. He didn't die right away. He must have held on long enough to push that button. So Kane Bullard sounded the buzzer himself? What is your opinion on this, Mr. Wright? We need to prove that the real criminal was there at the crime scene, but how? How can I prove it wasn't Kane Bullard who's... let's see. See at the brooch. He was dead before then, wouldn't it? I'm just gonna save real quick. Okay, so, oops. Okay, my thoughts on it are that they usually give us specific times of death. So I would say he was, according to the autopsy, he was already dead. The defense's opinion is this, Your Honor. The piece of evidence proves that it wasn't the victim who sounded the buzzer. Well, what do you think, Mr. Godot? Ha. You can hear it, the sound of a buzzer. Huh? It's going off inside your head at this very moment. The emergency buzzer of your heart. Is it really? Maybe just a little. Mr. Wright, you need to think more carefully. Come on. Creepy, you sound like... Wasn't the victim. No, that has nothing to do with it. Is it the fact that there's no fingerprints on it? I believe this is the piece of incontrovertible. Oh my gosh. Incontrovertible evidence you were looking for. The emergency buzzer? Is there some kind of clue on it? Absolutely not. Hey, come on now. At least give me some thought to what you say before opening your mouth. The fact that there are absolutely no clues is itself the clue. Now I'm the one who's clueless. You always are clueless, so let's just move on. The button has no fingerprints on it. If Mr. Bullard had really pressed it himself, naturally he would have left his fingerprints behind. Rhonda Light obviously wiped them off. Why would he? The guard would have come at any moment. He touched that button. I know he did. The defendant, Mr. Delight, was dressed as mask to mask. And mask to mask always wears gloves. What reason could he possibly have to wipe the button free of fingerprints? Order, order, order. Ha, it would seem. I've been forced to eat crow. I wonder what blend number crow flavored coffee is. However, if the real killer was there at the scene, why would that person press the emergency buzzer? Shouldn't they have run away without putting themselves in extra danger? They did. What's with this awkward silence all of a sudden? Ha. Looks like you're fresh out of parlor tricks. They're on to you, Nick. Well, the thing is, he pressed the buzzer, assuming that security would be on its way, and then he would have left with Master Mash just lying there on the floor. Pretty easy. They're on to you, Nick. Just give me a minute to collect my thoughts. The real culprit killed Mr. Bullard at around 1 a.m. And Mr. Delight just happened to waltz in when the murder was taking place, right? The killer clobbered Mr. Delight and then sounded the buzzer. Even though security was supposed to respond right away if the buzzer was pressed. Security was supposed to respond. Time's up, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you have to say. Very well, then. Oh, you've got some guts. I like that in an opponent. Why did the real killer sound the emergency buzzer? To call the security guard. The killer knew that if they pressed that button, a guard would come running. And that was exactly what they wanted. Do you mean to say the killer called the guard on purpose? Yes, although as it turned out, he never showed up, because he was getting his clock cleaned at the time. Ha, what a touching story. You're saying the killer had a change of heart and called the guard to turn himself in? No, I'm not. When the buzzer sounded, there were 3 people in that office. The victim, Kane Bullard, who was already dead. The defendant, Ron Delight, who was out cold. And the 3rd person, the real killer. Hypothetically, yes. Now then, in this situation, if the real killer made an escape, what would happen? The only ones left in the room would be the victim and Ron Delight. And if any security guards came running in at that time, they would think that I was the murderer. Yes, that was precisely the real killer's objective. To frame Ron Delight for the murder. He's come up with something. Oh, I guess he did it. Order, order, order. Ha, it would seem. I've been made to eat my words once again. Actually been made to do a spit take with a cup of coffee. But Mr. Wright, who was it? Who was it that tried to frame me? Wait a second. I'm the one and only Master Mouse, so... Nick, you mean the real killer is going to drag that person in here right now? But who is it? I don't have any solid proof yet, but think about it. Killer knew Mr. Delight's identity, and they also knew that he had been called to KB security that night. Only Desi would know. So the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder King Bullard. Desi would have been the only person who knows. Naturally, the true culprit's none other than Ron Delight's wife, Desiree. What? Why, that's simply... Mr. Wright, have you gone insane? Aren't you forgetting something, Mr. Trite? Excuse me? Where was Desiree Delight at 1 a.m. that night? Ah, that's right. She was at the police station for almost the entire night. I have a record of it here. I also did forget about that. Who else would have known? Young but very skilled is not. Who would have known? honestly want to say it was Kane Bullard, but I'm not too sure, actually. Desi literally was the only one who made sense. It would be whoever wrote the blackmail. This can't be it. Well, yeah, who else could it be? Do they even know that Mr. Light was masked to mask? I wonder. Oops. No, it's here. Is it the blackmail letters? Okay. I went back a whole bunch. I will be right back, guys. Alrighty guys, I am back at a sensible time, and I also saved it so I can get right back to a point. Who was it? Who was it that tried to frame me? I'm the only masked mask, so Nick, you mean the real killer is... Gonna drag that person in here right now. Killer knew Mr. Light's identity, and they also knew that he had been called to KB's security that night. So, the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder Kane Bullard. Alright, she's dead. She's definitely not. Okay, he wants to say that's him. But he would have been on the other side of town. Plan. No, she would have no reason. Huh. Honestly, I was thinking Desi. I totally forgot that she was at the police station. The only thing that makes sense to me, if we are to really believe that Rhonda Light is... Detective Luke at me. He's the only one who could have done it. Ace Detective. Luke at me. You mean Mask to Mask did it? I mean, I did think it was his outline in the shadow, but I thought that was them just possibly projecting. But I personally don't get it, but we'll just go with it. Your Honor, the person being tried in the court next to us is not mask to mask at all. He is, in actuality, the true murderer of Kane Bullard. Order, Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Theft and murder, which is the more serious crime? They're not even close. Murder is the more serious crime, of course. It's a capital crime subject to a capital punishment. Please remember the trial from yesterday, if you would. When Luke Atme confessed, there was a huge commotion in the courtroom. Of course, a famous detective was unmasked as, well, mask to mask. Instead of being convicted of murder, he was found guilty of grand larceny. That was his true objective all along. To be found guilty? Mask to Mask had the perfect alibi for when the murder took place. He was stealing the urn at Lordly Taylor. In other words, being found guilty as Mask to Mask was Luke Atme's airtight, watertight, and unassailable alibi. A guilty verdict. As an alibi? Does that mean there's another mask-to-mask costume running around? You know, it's almost time. For what? For Luke Atmey's verdict. It was a pretty simple trial after all. If we're going to stop this trial and stall that one, we need to do it now. Of course. As assuming you have proof that the detective was the one who committed the murder. Mr. Luke Atmey's trial has indeed attracted the attention of the attacked country. If we were to intrude and fail to provide adequate proof of his true crime, Mr. Light would be left with no grounds for appeal. Really sure about this? Huh. I bet it's only good when your life's the ante. Mr. Wright, I believe in you. Mr. Delight. So please. I'm begging you. I'm just completely lost now. Thanks, but my decision will determine the rest of your life. Can I really risk your life like this? Phoenix. I mean, are they about to say it's the way that there was no fingerprints on the urn? Oh, what was that? Don't stray, Phoenix. For your client, take the path of trust. That voice, it sounds like Mia. Your Honor, the defense requests an immediate recess. Ha. So that's your answer, huh? Very well. I've decided as well. This court will now take a 20-minute recess. Mr. Wright, when we return, please summon Mr. Luke Atmey to the stand. Yes, Your Honor. I hope Phoenix knows what's going on, because I don't. He. Well, Sir Detective Atmey. I have to say, Mr. Payne, you performed splendidly. Oh no, Sir Detective Atmey, you were the one who... That's enough. This court sees no reason to further prolong this trial. This court finds the defendant Luke Atmey. Wait, don't hand down your verdict yet, please. Well, well, Sir Lawyer, come to my courtroom. Who's this hoser, eh? My name is Phoenix Wright, attorney at law, and I wish to file an accusation against this man, Luke Atmey. Accusation? You accuse Mask to Mask? That man is not Mask to Mask. He's just a ruthless murderer. What? I'll be honest with you, I'm still confused. I have no clue where this is going. But yeah, I guess next time we will figure out why Atmey did what he did. I'm still trying to piece the puzzle together because we know there are 2 mask-to-mask costumes out there, and that Atmey could have one of them, and Ron has the other one. So it's just like, Atmey could have given that to anyone. And it's just like, we found Ron's wallet, so he was definitely there. But we also can't prove that Atmey was really the one who was at the museum, I suppose. Because he was hiding, quote-unquote hiding, the whole time. And the story about being knocked out, was it like from behind or in front? He would be actually telling Ron's side of his experience over there. Okay, the one thing, so Atmey had to have either given the suit to someone else or mess with the time codes at the museum, I think. But we will figure that out next time where my head will hurt even more than it is right now. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye!